This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a Frigidaire gallery dryer with a loud squeak, and this is a very common problem when a part in the back called the rear bearing wears out. And it's pretty easy to change. It probably wears out after about maybe 9 to 10 years. And to do that, all we got to do is unplug it, and then we're going to use a paint scraper, or you could use a standard head screwdriver too, to push in on 2 clips. They're about 4 inches in from the right or left side, and that allows you to lift up the top panel. And you can just hinge up the top panel and keep it up, or you could disconnect it too. I'm also right here disconnecting the main power source coming to the front panel or to the controller by just disconnecting a modular piece. Now I'm going to lift off the top by coming off of these 2 little hinges, and then I'll take off this green ground connector and just pull it right off, and then I can get the top out of there. You don't have to do that again. You can just hinge it up as long as it won't fall on you. And then there's a couple of Phillips head screws we have to take out. One here that is holding on this little plastic brace, and that comes right out. That's easy. There's one in the left-hand corner about 5 inches down from the top, and there's also one in the right-hand corner. And after you take those out, you can easily remove the front panel. With the front panel off, then we can easily get the tumbler out, and when the tumbler's out, we can then do the replacement of the rear bearing, which is the part that makes the squeaky sound. So now we're going to grab the front panel and pull it toward us. You got to do it kind of powerfully because there's a couple of clips holding it in. You can lift off the front panel, get it out of the way, and we see that there's some lint that's built up inside there, which is normal. We're going to get rid of most of that because it can make the dryer not work as well. We're going to reach in on the right and left hand side, and we're going to pull the idler wheel. I'm sorry we can't see it on camera. We're going to pull it to the side and pull the belt off of the little motor pulley. Now we can yank up on the belt really hard to get the rear bearing, which is like a ball, to go out of the plastic socket that it's being held in. So we got that disconnected by lifting it up, and now we're going to just use the belt to help us get the tumbler or the drum out of the cabinet. And now we're just using a vacuum cleaner to clean up all of the lint that we can see. And the blower housing is really important because that limits how well the dryer can move the air around. It's also good to clean throughout the cabinet here. Right around this area is good. This vent in the back is really important that it be kept clear. In this case, it was pretty much all the way blocked, and that prevents fresh air from coming in and cooling down the dryer motor. So this is really good to clean all this up. Kind of sped up the film here. And this should only take you a couple of minutes to do this. So we've got a bunch of lint out. Here's even more that's being trapped in this ducting on the front panel. This is where the filter goes. And this is a common place where there's a lot of lint buildup on this model. So you just reach in and pull all this stuff out. And now your dryer will probably dry twice as fast because you've improved so much the airflow. We're going to use the vacuum cleaner to get rid of some of this dust and lint that's accumulated. And then we can go in and do our repair of the rear bearing. We're doing a little bit of cleaning also here on the back. This is where the rear bearing hangs out. It's this metal piece that looks like a ball at the end of it. And this one's really worn out. This kit is really inexpensive. We'll put a link in the description below. It gives you a new rear bearing and also a new plastic socket that it fits into. It comes with a tube of lubricant. It comes with a new BB or ball bearing that helps to get rid of static. It comes with all the pieces you need to get rid of the squeak and to get your dryer's drum spinning easily again. What I'm doing now is I'm putting the screws that come with the rear bearing into the holes in the rear bearing, and I'm forcing them in. It takes a lot of force to do this, but what you're doing is cutting threads into the rear bearing metal so that when you do the assembly, it's going to be easier to do. It's hard to do this later in the process, so this is a good time to put the screw in position by hand and then brace it strong, and then drive it in with your powerful Phillips head screwdriver. You can put this on the ground too, makes it a little bit easier because you have more leverage to really push down hard as the screwdriver is turning. You got to make sure you're using a good Phillips number 2 driver that isn't stripped out, because it's kind of hard to get these things to move, and you need to have a really good screwdriver to do it. Once you put the screws in, you pull them back out, and then I put a screw here. I'm taking the screws out of the old rear bearing. This is inside the drum. These are 3 Phillips head screws. Once they're out, the old rear bearing just falls off. And you could reuse these screws, but it comes with 3 new ones. To do this, I use on my Phillips head screwdriver an extension so that I can just do this with one guy. I don't need anybody else to help. But I need to, here's the old one and the new one. I need to have some kind of extension because I have to reach with my right arm to drive in the screw, but my left hand is going to be holding the new rear bearing in position. First I'll put the screw in, and then I'll reach around and I'll put the threads of the rear bearing into that screw, and then I'll drive the screw in with that extended Phillips head screwdriver. Get that tight, and now it's easy to put in the next 2, because that first screw is kind of holding the rear bearing in the right position. You want to get these screws in nice and tight because they're basically holding up the back of the drum of your dryer. Here's the third one. And then now the drum assembly is all done. We just have to work on the socket that's going to hold up that rear bearing ball. So taking out the old socket, if you have this like on a stacked dryer where you can't easily get behind the dryer, it might be good to tape down the metal piece that's directly behind where I'm working. It's behind your dryer, because it'll fall off when you remove this assembly, and you need it there because it's basically the female threads that are holding the screws in place. In this case, I don't have to tape it because I can just reach over, because this is not a stacked dryer, it's not up high. So I just broke the seal on the lubricant, and I'm going to push a bunch of it, pretty much the whole contents of it, into this plastic cup. This is a high temperature lubricant that lasts years and years and years. Eventually it just all gets used up by friction and through evaporation, and that's when it starts to squeak bad. So I put a little bit of grease too on the back, because that's going to be used to stick a little BB or ball bearing in position. It's so sticky, it just holds it there for you during the assembly. And the kit comes with this little BB or ball bearing. So this is the brace that's going to hold it in position. I'll add the screws in there. Here's a second screw. It's almost ready, and this little piece is what it goes into. This goes on the back of the dryer. Here's the little BB, and I'm just going to set that right in the grease. It'll hold it in. Okay, pretty much ready. So I'm going to get my driver ready also, so I can drive in the screws. I'm going to put this little piece on the back, my left hand. My right hand's going to get the screws in position. I'm going to look for that little metal piece through the hole here. I'm going to line it up first. And then I'm going to put one of these screws in by hand. I'm just going to start a few threads in there to get it to stay. See if I can feel it. So if you tape down that a little metal piece initially, you don't have to do this. It just goes right in. It's easy, but if you didn't, it'll fall and you have to reposition everything. So now I'm just going to tighten those two screws really tight, and this is holding up that rear bearing, the ball part of it. This is the socket. We get that nice and tight. Get the dryer clean. I'm going to feed in the drum, and I'm going to get that ball to lift up a little bit above the socket, and then I'll just let it drop down into the socket. That'll go right in there. So I lift it up and then let it drop right in, push it down, and now I'm going to get the belt lined up right over where it was. I can see the marks of where it was. I'll put this little guide thing back in. It kind of keeps the drum from falling out away. Now I'm going to reach in from below with my right and left hand, and I'm going to get that belt. You can kind of see it in the camera shot over the white either wheel, and then I'll pull the either wheel to the, I believe it's to the left, to my left, and I'll then get the belt looped up over the smaller little wheel on the motor. And now I have it lined up. I'm going to gently turn the drum, and I'll see the little blower wheel turning. That way I know everything's lined up, and I know that the belt is turning the motor. And then I'm just going to keep everything aligned and do a couple of revolutions before I do the assembly. If you don't do this, then maybe when you're all assembled and you start the dryer, the belt may slip off. So it's good to just make sure it's not going to come off before you put all the panels back on. So now I'm putting the front panel back on those two bottom clips. It just rests right on there. Make sure it's seated all the way down. This one and this one. And I'm going to close it. I'm going to make sure the wires go in. I'm going to lift up on the drum so it can rest on that felt front bearing. And I'm going to hammer, just heel of hand these into position so those clips lock in. I can reconnect, or actually I'll put in the two Phillips head screws first. So I'll do this one on the left. You can maybe start these by hand and then drive them in. Do the one on the right. You're almost done. And the Squeek's going to be gone for probably a decade. So I'll go ahead and put on this. There's 4 possibilities of how these can go together. You just keep playing until you find that it'll realign. You can look at the wires too. They're going to be the same colors on each side. Lock it in, and I'm going to add a zip tie also to kind of keep these wires from falling in toward the drum during operation. I'll get that zip tie nice and tight. All right, looking good. Let's put the top panel back on. So we're just going to realign the holes with those 2 metal hinges. Okay, there we go. Fit them over the hinges. I'll reconnect that green ground strap. I'm just going to push it onto the frame. And now I can close the lid, and I'm going to just hammer fist those down so that they lock into position. And we're done. We can go ahead and start it up, and there'll be no more squeak. Sounds good. So I noticed that the filter was kind of not sitting all the way flat. So I removed the filter. I I got this long screwdriver and I'm just cleaning off the little ledge that it sits on. There was a bunch of lint in there. That keeps it from sitting down, but that's bad because then it makes the lint migrate around. So you want to trap it with your filter. You can see some of it on this little shelf. I'm just knocking that stuff off. If it falls in there, it's okay because it'll just be blown out the back. Alright, looks good. Yeah, now it sits nice and flat. I'm going to go out and check the outside. Feels like a hairdryer. Thanks so much for watching our video. We really appreciate your support. And when you get a chance, please press the subscribe button below so you can be subscribed, and also the notification bell so we can send you more videos about appliance repair. Please also give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you really liked the video and it really helped you, please press this new applaud button and you can show your support and also get a nice clapping hands for your video. Thanks again.